Okay, so hi Joey. Thank you for agreeing to help me out with this research project. My name is Arturo Felix, and I'm a student at Lost Year University. Your answers will help me complete an assignment to study and write about another culture from the perspective of people that I interview. I want you to know that all the information in this interview is for the class assignment only and will not be shared with anyone outside of this class. Since some of the information you share may be sensitive, I will not use your real name. I would like to record the interview so I can more accurately better remember what you would you be all right with that?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so where were you born?
I was born in Los Angeles, California. I don't really remember if it was Highland Park or a little bit going towards, I want to say in between Echo Park or something.
Yeah.
It was around that area, but I'm going to generalize it in
Okay.
Los Angeles.
All right, so tell me about that area you grew up in.
The area that I grew up in, it wasn't it wasn't as much of a city based. It had some, necessities, some shops, but it was more of a neighborhood. Uh, the city that I lived in was, like I said, more of a neighborhood. You didn't really have a lot of things that a lot of cities have now, were movie theaters or anything that local. It was more of just groceries, liquor stores,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of houses,
Okay.
parks, parking lots. That's it. Nothing else.
Did you grow up in one home, multiple? Did you move around?
We moved in multiple. I remember my father saying that we lived in a house before close to the freeway in Highland Park. Again, that's the one I'm talking about. And then we moved to West Covina, and then we moved back over here to Highland Park, and then we moved to where we live now in
Okay.
El Sereno.
So, okay, so you mentioned you lived in two different places throughout your childhood. Describe or actually tell me one thing that you liked about Highland Park.
The one thing I loved about Highland Park is that it was quiet,
Mm-hmm.
but it also had some sort of action and excitement to
Yeah.
it. There was a lot of people around. It wasn't a lot of people would walk around. It's not like if, uh, let's just say, for example, really nice neighborhood deep in that you won't see deep in some sort of
Yeah.
a southern area.
Okay.
You won't suburb area. Excuse me. You won't see a lot of people walking around, but there was always people out. It was never boring or just how I like to say empty.
Yeah. Okay. And what about the other place you said you we stood in?
The other place, actually in West Covina, that I stood in, I remember that it was like that. It was quiet. Not a lot of people were outside. Everyone was always inside. I think the only type of, I want to say, life that we had was there was a high school or a park down the street. So that's the only time I would see a lot of people walk around that I could remember. But other than that, everyone was always inside,
Okay.
including myself.
So now, tell me like family. Tell me about your family.
Um,
How many brothers? How many if any
I
sisters?
have three brothers, no sisters. I have my mom and my dad. We're quite close. We're mainly close due to sports. We have a very unique bond. Our
Okay.
bond is usually through sports.
Okay. Now, what kind of work did your parents do?
My parents, my dad originally was a mechanic, and then he transitioned into towel working, and now he's currently retired. He also gives hitting, batting lessons for baseball and softball. My mom used to be a secretary at USC in a department. I forgot what that department was called. And then she transitioned into a resource work career worker over there at LA Trade Tech. So that's where they work right now.
Okay. What are some of the things that you do with your family?
The most of the mainly things that we do with our family is just sports based. We don't really. It's rare if we really have the free time to do what other families do, or how I like to say normal families do. Every time it's either I'm working and I'm training, or my younger siblings are training, There's never really a time that we could just sit and do nothing.
Are you religious?
I am Catholic, but I'm not very religious.
Yeah,
I'm
like-
very free spirited.
Yeah.
How I like to say how this generation is, we're just very opinionated, just
Yeah.
go with the flow type of mentality.
Did you have you attended church? Like, have you?
I used to attend church a lot. I could admit I didn't really attend church since we were so sports revolved around our family. We didn't really go to church a lot. The only time we went to church was for someone's baptism, a wedding, or when I did my first communion. That's the only time we attended church religiously. But I do attend church here and there, but not for a special occasion, or not because I was the one that initiated going out there first. I would go with my boyfriend and his family when they would go here and there. But if going to church is, I gotta admit, and it's I kind of want to change that. It's not my first priority how it should be.
Yeah. Okay. So, hobbies.
So what I do right now, my hobby, I was an ex Division I athlete, but now I transitioned into being a trainer for softball, or hitting, fielding, some conditioning that goes along with softball, but that's about it. That's what I do 24/7.
Okay. So you say that was basically your hobby throughout your whole life and all that stuff. How did that affect your life?
That hobby affected my life in a positive and a negative way. A positive way because it actually made me be part of one of the best Division I softball programs in all of the country. I went to UCLA, and I was one of the top athletes when I was younger. And then graduating UCLA, obviously, it provided me a degree and it opened up a lot of doors. But with that, just basically because of UCLA, it gave me a lot of outcome-based positivity. You know, I had a lot of respect. I have a good job right now. Networking, it's opened a lot. But during that time training for softball, before getting to UCLA, on the road to it and there, it actually really affected my social life. I wasn't very social.
Yeah.
I wasn't very open to being around people unless I was playing on a team.
Okay.
Or going to games. But other than that, it did make me antisocial and want to be by myself. It also did affect me by being overly aggressive and judgmental, because again, sports are very judgmental based. Everything you do is judged, and everything a person trains or tells you is based off of their judgment. You got to do this, you have to fix that, and nothing's really ever good enough. So that's what my mentality has been throughout my whole life, which is also, it can be positive because it makes you ambitious, but also very negative because you're just being negative all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. As a student athlete, what was your favorite subject in school and why?
As a student athlete, my favorite subject was actually sociology.
Okay.
The reason why I love sociology, or anything that has to do with the mind or the social norm, even sometimes the physical observation of the human body, of just the human being out there in the social world, or communicating and being around other people. That was very intriguing because it just opened up my eyes to actually really look at the bigger picture. It's not just going outside and, I do this, I do that, but it made me notice that we all do the same thing based off of a social norm. And if you notice, if you do something out of the social norm, people look at you differently, or people get upset in some circumstances.
Yeah.
But other than that, sociology was my favorite subject. I loved reading, I loved research, I loved all that, looking at, going to different classes and looking at, getting different professors' views on society and in human life.
Okay. So now the next question is obviously the opposite. What was your least favorite?
My least favorite, and it will always be my least favorite, is math. I really absolutely hate math. I'm not good at it. I think the last time I had to physically take math was my sophomore year in high school. And because of that, since I didn't really have to take math, I was done. And then when I needed to take, I think it wasn't calculus, it was stats. Yeah. I know that's more statistical math, but there was also some numbers, and I was not very good at it. I struggled. I think I took the class 3 times.
Okay. Now, you said you were a student athlete. Did you enjoy school at all? Were you one of those people that just went to school for sports, or did you just enjoy it,
I
for school?
I actually enjoyed school. I actually miss it because it just gave you that sort of structure and that knowledge. You learn something new
Yeah.
every day, no matter what topic. I loved learning. Now, the only time I didn't like school was when we were playing or we were on the road and I would have to take a final or I would have to stay up for 2 days and then play. I just didn't like how there wasn't a separation between school and softball.
Yeah.
There was one would always coincide with one another, and there was never that
Yeah.
firm fine line to separate both.
Okay. So now, as a student athlete, I mean, we obviously all know it can be hard sometimes, and maybe sometimes the parents of that student athlete might push a little harder than a normal parent. But what is your opinion on parents who are hard on their kids about the sports they play?
I think they have to be. Personally, and I hope no one takes this wrong with whoever listens to this, sports is a different beast. Sports, honestly, is very important to help prepare a young adolescent or a teenager to help prepare for life. That's something that I've learned. Sports is amazing and it helps shape a young child when they start young to have the basics that they're going to need in life: structure, aggressiveness when the time being, team effort, being able to work with others, and sometimes being social and doing something that they don't want to do and actually doing it. Because let's be honest, a lot of us are going to go through life working and we're not going to want to do something that we don't want to do, but we have to do it because we have to get it done. And the other thing about sports, it's great because there's rules. Unfortunately, unless you run your own business, even then you have to follow rules. There are rules that need to be followed in order to succeed. And I think parents who are hard on their kids by making them do what they need to do, depending on what that kid wants to do with the sport, making them do what they need to do to apply to the sport, to either succeed, to be that athlete, or just to use it to help shape them into that strong, independent individual. I think it's great. It doesn't work out if you want your kid to play a sport but yet you're soft or you're passive or you teach them timidness. It just doesn't work that way, because sports in general is supposed to make someone aggressive and having that go-getter attitude and having that I won't quit attitude. Because most of the time sports is about failure. Any sport you do is about failure. You learn. In order to grow, you need to learn from your failures. You need to fail in order to grow and learn. So I believe, and I totally 100% agree with a parent pushing their kid. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a fine line between being physically and mentally abusive towards that sport. There's a fine line with that. I don't think any kid should have to endure that. But there is going to be some pushing. There is going to be that strict and stern foot that has to be held down when your kid doesn't want to go to practice or they don't want to put the time in. That has to be it, because guess what? In life, there's going to be like I mentioned before, there's going to be a lot of things that we are not going to want to do. We have to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So next question, and now this is for the people who don't play sports, but they're forced into a certain field, like someone, like let's just say, everyone knows that stereotypical Asian parent, they want that his or her child to let's just say be a doctor or a lawyer or even a typical Caucasian person be a like same thing, a doctor or something like that, something of that higher tier job. What is your opinion on parents forcing them into those specific fields?
I think it's a good thing. And personally, if I could speak from my experiences, just from what I went through from having multiracial teammates, multiracial clients, friends, that I think it's good that they push them to do something even if they don't want to do it. The reason why is society is very different. In order to succeed with how the economy is and how expensive it is, you have to make decent money. You're not going to get by just, no offense, working at McDonald's or working at a fast food chain. It's not going to work like that
Yeah.
unless you're, without how expensive it is nowadays and how rent is and bills that have to be paid, the necessities that you need, and even with that, just having a little bit of money to enjoy life in general or to pay off school loans, you need to get a good job. And I think I know a lot of people have that stereotypical thing, oh, they're Asian, like they're forced to be a doctor, whatever. It's not only that, it's just the experiences of the parents. Now, I'm going to give you two examples. You have one family where both parents both graduated college and they work a decent job. Of course, they're going to force their kids to follow in their footsteps to go through college, whether they like it or not, to get a full-time job because that's their experience. Versus family B, where one parent didn't graduate high school and one parent that just went into the workforce and is a construction worker right when he was old enough to work. So that type B, you can't blame those parents for not being strict on their kids to graduate high school or graduate college because their experiences, they don't know what that's like. They just started a job from a very young age or whatever it may be. So both family situations are different. It just so happens that the stereotype comes from how often certain races fall into that. So if you notice Asians, they push their kids to be doctors.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, which I could feel free, and I'm not being racist or biased or anything like that. But if you notice, a lot of Mexican American, a lot of their families, they're very, from their experiences, they're very old school. Once you graduate or you don't even graduate, kids get young. Kids that are young, especially women, they're expected to get married and have kids and find a husband and whatever. So there's no pushing to look past it other than having a family-based value on that. So those are two different examples. So do I blame the parents? No, I don't at all, because it depends on their experience. Every parent's experience or every different family or race has their own experience in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to affect their kid and what they do in life.
Okay. So now, piggybacking off of that with another question, and you can be honest, do you think you were forced into the world of being an athlete?
Oh, definitely am, because my father was an athlete. He was in the minor system playing baseball. So of course, that's only understandable. It's the same thing when I have kids. I'm going to force my kids to play ball because I believe it's going to be the best way to shape them.
Yeah.
And if they stick with it and they're good at it, great. That's awesome. Then guess what? You're going to play college ball. You're going to go past that depending on the certain sport. But if I know my kid is not that good and I know that they struggle with talent, then I'm still going to put them in sports, at least to teach them some sort of structure.
Okay. So now, you said you played D1 ball, and we obviously all know it's very stressful, and it can be very stressful at some times, and we all know that the game of baseball and softball is a game of failure. So throughout your career, did you ever feel like quitting?
Oh yeah, multiple times. But for many reasons, for two reasons mainly. I felt like quitting because like how I say, sports in general, if you want to take it to the next level, sports is meant to no one take this wrong, but it's meant to separate the average human being, or how I like to say, the strong from the weak. Only the strong will prevail. Only the mentally strong and physically, how I like to say, just the athletes that are just so dedicated to that sport, they are going to succeed. If you're not dedicated 100%, you are going to struggle and hate the sport. You're going to suffer.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about sports, because think about it, in every sport, that every kid, there must be billions of kids participating in sports, but how many actually make it to college ball? Probably 50%? Then how many actually keep continuing after college to be a professional ball player? Maybe 20, 10%. So that it's tough.
Yeah.
And
so like, okay, so when you did go through those times where you just feel like quitting, what was like the biggest thing that you told yourself?
Yeah,
because we obviously all know that you said you made it to the tip top of the softball world, so we obviously know that you made it. So what did you tell yourself when you were going through that process of coming up and making it? What did you tell yourself so you don't quit?
Well, there was two different phases when I wanted to quit. One was when I was young because, like I said, I had no social life. That's all I did day in and day out when I was little. Softball, 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 softball. Let's put it this way. I don't even think if it was for softball that I honestly wouldn't have went to a university. I'm going to be totally honest.
Yeah.
I didn't even, when I was getting recruited at the age of 13, 14, I don't even think I even emailed any universities or even considered a university. UCLA came knocking on my door because of how good I was at softball. So I don't think I would even consider UCLA if it wasn't for sports. But when I wanted to quit my first half when I was young, in my younger teen years, I wanted to quit because it was tough. It was tough. It was hard. And I would tell myself, you know what? I love the sport. I love the sport. I love the sport. Why? What else I'd be playing it? Because if I wanted to actually quit, I would have quit. But I would just tell myself, that's it. I'm done. I want to quit when it would get tough, when it would get hard, when I wouldn't do good, and there was frustration, or I would have a verbal altercation with my dad about I'm not doing good enough, or et cetera, et cetera. That was one time, and I would tell myself, you love the game, don't quit.
Okay.
But once I got to my later teens, 17, 18, I was an adult by then, or at UCLA, the love for the game is there, but it's not like it used to be when I was younger. That's because I was very naive to the sport. I didn't understand how much sacrifice and pain I would endure in order to play for one of the top programs.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it wasn't fun. It was awesome. It was great. But just the behind the scenes in training, there was times where I wanted to quit because I was physically and emotionally tired. My body was hurting. Emotionally, I was just done and drained mentally because of juggling both school and softball and having to prioritize my other things that were happening in my life around that. And I wanted to quit, but what I would tell myself, and this is different from when I was younger, I would literally tell myself, why am I going to quit now when I have 3 or 2 more years left? Why am I going to quit? My parents spent so much money and sacrificed so much to get me here and went without. Why am I going to throw it all away because I don't want to do this anymore? Or I fell out of love with it? Why? So what I told myself is, what did I go through all that? What did I go through all that pain and long drives home and long hours of training and 2-a-days, 3-a-days, multiple days of training and having to stay up late balancing school and softball? What did I do that for?
Yeah.
So I told myself, I can't quit now. It's already too late. I'm already towards the end. I better finish it. So that's what I did. So those are the 2 different times, and that's what I told myself.
Okay.
With playing the sport when I wanted to quit and how I got myself out of it.
Okay. So now the next, these are the last 2 questions, but the next one is, if you did quit during your career, what happens? And I can say for myself too, because I'm an athlete as well. What happens in our culture, our so-called athletic culture, that athlete culture? What happens when you quit, or how are you looked upon when you quit?
Unfortunately, in the athlete culture, like I said, it's very tough. You were taught to one-up one another. You were never taught to, it's okay, go ahead, take my spot. You were always taught to, I have to win that spot to perform and to play. I have to beat my opponent. So when you have another athlete looking at another athlete that quit because it got too hard or tough, or for what we call a lame excuse, you're looked down upon. You're frowned. You're looked at as a quitter, and it's pretty tough. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there in sports. So, for example, if I would quit, I'm pretty sure other athletes would look at me, oh my God, see, I told you. That's why you couldn't make it. Told you were too weak. You were too weak. You couldn't have made it because guess what? You weren't born for this.
Okay.
So that's how other athletes look at athletes when they quit. But if an athlete quits because of a self-ending injury or family issues or something tragic that happens in their life, that's different. But if you quit because it got too hard or you didn't know how to balance both, yeah, you were definitely frowned upon. There was no fluffing that or comforting about that.
Okay. So now the last question. Do you think it was all worth it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
What you
100% what I went through is worth it. I'm gonna tell you why. One, my name is pretty big in the softball world, decently big for what I did. 2, it has landed me so many opportunities and so many, and I don't want to get into a depth conversation in this subject, but so many people have respected me because of it. oh, she graduated from UCLA and she was a D1 athlete. Oh my God, oh my God. They would come in hordes and they would just, excuse my language, kiss my ass and just make it all about me. So I got that attention. Not saying I wanted it, but I got that attention, respected attention, as I should say. And three, it's making me very good money right now.
Yeah.
That's
all we want in this world.
Yeah,
money.
it's making me very good money right now to provide whatever I need to provide for myself and to help out with my family and to give everyone else an opportunity. And the fourth thing, which is most important, the money and all that is not very important. I don't care about the respect. I don't care about anything else that comes along with it. But what it provided me with was a chance to share my experiences and to change the lives of many student athletes that want to become an athlete but don't know how to get there or what to do. And that's the most important reason why I train and why I stay in my neighborhood. Because personally speaking, in this neighborhood at El Sereno, it's done. There's not a lot of positive influences in this neighborhood. It's all just bad, negative. So if I'm going to be that positive light at that park to help get athletes out and use athletics as a tool to get into college or to motivate them to stay into college and stay on the right path, I will do so 100%. And that's the number one reason why it's worth it to make these, excuse me, not dreams, but to make these kids have goals in life. I think that's the biggest thing, is that a lot of this generation, a lot of these young kids don't have goals, so they fall prey to, oh well, I don't know what to do after high school, I'm just going to work and that's it, instead of seeking a better opportunity to get a better education so you could get a better job or to travel the world. That's what I want these kids to do. And with UCLA providing me that opportunity, I'm more than 100% happy and fine and accepting whatever I went through. It was all worth in the end to help these other young kids.
Okay, thank you.